So examples of a principal's advisory council. So we use protocols, systems, and structures for convening. I'm going to read this really quick, and then I'll just walk you through what I do every year. We establish group norms. So when we're establishing group norms, I'm very strategic about making sure that they understand what those group norms are. And I use examples to share what those groups are, what those group norms are. For example, active listening. I ask the students, what does that mean to be an active listener? Right? And then we have a conversation about it. Not interrupting. I'll ask the kids, what does that mean? And so we just talk about all of our group norms. And then I ask the students, you know, are these good? Do you want to add any or anything like that? And they'll, most of the time in our first meeting, they say no. And I say, we're going to have these up every meeting. And if you think of something after you leave, please let us know next time and we can add them. So it's never just these are the group norms for the rest of the meeting. We might have to add, or for the rest of the time we're together, we might have to change them or add them or make them clearer as we move along. Then I also ask them, and I learned this as, you know, as I got older and practiced more, but I asked them, like, what do I do if students don't follow the group norms? What should my response be? And I tell them, because this is a wonderful opportunity for all of us to be together. And, you know, I want you all to have a voice and really take ownership over your school. But I also don't want to constantly be, you know, please put your phone away or do that kind of stuff. So how should I manage that? And that has worked really well because kids really want to be there. And they want to be respectful. So then we work that out and they give me advice, and then that's how we move forward. Practice conversation and listening. Again, we just go over what that means. I always use pronouns, and I tell my students, this is voluntary. I'll never make anyone use pronouns because that's a way of outing people who maybe are uncomfortable with it, or just people are uncomfortable with it. My experience has been that in the beginning, kids are uncomfortable with it. And once they get to know one another, they begin to use them more because they also want to be allies for their peers. And so it ends up not being an uncomfortable situation. Establish and reestablish relationships. We ask them, how do we come together as a community of learners? But I use a lot of getting to know you activities to build trust. Giving students opportunities to learn more about each other's stories outside of their group so they can be better advocates for one another. This has been so powerful. You know, a lot of times, like, the athletes don't always hang out with the students in the theater class. Our LGBTQ population doesn't always hang out. I had two schools within a school, so they were blended. I had a charter and a comprehensive high school. And so those two groups didn't really hang out much. But when you bring the kids together and they start building relationships and getting to know one another, and we talk about their experiences at school, this really beautiful thing happens where kids come together and they want to support one another. And so they become advocates, and then they go to their groups of friends and peers, and they talk about this, and they talk about how they need to be more inclusive and caring and supportive of all the kids in our community. So stay curious about one another. Conversations is a natural way for humans to think together. It can be messy at times, and I always end with a closing prompt. It's usually one word. Let's share it. We stand up in a circle and we talk about what's one word about how you're feeling in this moment as we leave today. And then kids, you know, most of the time when we're done, they get very excited and they use words like hopeful, excited, curious, just different things like that. How you had asked earlier, Nina, how I choose kids. So one of the things I do is I really want to get to know my students, because I like to choose my students, because this is the one time I'm like, I get to choose my kids. I do send out requests from staff to say, who would you recommend? And I look at the students that folks recommend, and then I also pull some of my own students. So I create a spreadsheet. On the spreadsheet, I put their name, their race, their culture, their grades, like their GPA, the grade level that they're in, and if they're involved in any extracurricular activities. And then I look at, are they in SPED? Do they have, are they an English learner? are they in special education? I had a behavior classroom. So I had students from that classroom as well come into my group. I usually pick about 40 students. That's a lot. But it works really well because we've worked through kind of like, what do we do when things are not working out very well? Like, how do I handle it? So even with 40 students across all of those, it's worked out really well. When I look at, for example, my English learners, I always include 2 students that are English learners because I don't want them to be alone. I want them to feel like they can speak up and have someone with them. And I do that with race as well. And so I never bring in kids where there's just one of them. I always think about, okay, having, if I bring in my LGBT community, if I bring in my Black students, which I do, I bring in all my students, my Latino students, and I look at who are they representing, and making sure that we have a really good representation of our school community. So that's how I pick them. And then I bring in kids that get straight A's, and I bring in kids that get straight F's. So, yep. Next.